You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com. And now, it's time for the show that breaks down the options market from unusual activity alerts to market analysis, strategy overviews, listener questions, and much more. If it involves puts and calls, then our all-star panel will break it down. It's time to hit the Option Block with your host, Mark Longo from the Options Insider Media Group and co-hosts Uncle Mike TOSAW from St. Charles Wealth Management, Mark the Greasy Meatball Sebastian from OptionPit.com, Andrew the Rock Lobster GIOVINAZZI from OptionPit.com, and Henry the FLOWMASTER Schwartz from CBOE. The Option Block is brought to you by CBOE. When it comes to trading volatility, trust CBOE, the creator of the VIX Index, for in-depth and relevant information. CBOE's tools and services gives you up-to-date trade insights, analysis, and positions of VIX options and futures. No matter what kind of trader you are, there's plenty of useful information to take the guesswork out of creating your portfolio strategy and to help you make more educated moves in the market. Visit www.cboe.com/VIX today to learn more. And now, get ready to hit the Option Block.
All right, everybody, that music means we are back once again for the Option Block, what the cool kids call the old OB. My name, of course, Mark Longo from theoptionsinsider.com, as well as, of course, from the network upon which all of you are binging these days. Just ask you three things right off the top of the show. First off, if you like what you hear, you're listening to the Option Block, make sure you throw some reviews our way if you are so inclined. Then, of course, if you're not listening to the full network, what are you doing? You're missing out on nearly a dozen programs there for your listening pleasure and goodness. And then if you want to go above and beyond, you have questions in these crazy, tumultuous markets. And hey, who doesn't these days, right? Then theoptionsinsider.com/pro is the place to go to kick the tires and light the fires out there. Listeners, you're going to get a bunch of exclusive content. There's nearly 200 episodes up there already. You can literally go for over a week just binging the pro feed nonstop, no bathroom breaks, no food, no eating, just straight listening out there. Of course, great pro Q&A sessions, Options Oddities, which is a great show in and of itself. If you can't listen to that show and find at least one thing that you want to trade or at least are intrigued by, you're not doing it right, listeners. Of course, giveaways, live streams, all kinds of fun. Theoptionsinsider.com/pro is the place to go as we go around the horn. See who's joining us here on the old show today. By the way, if I sound a little bit different, it's because I'm joining you from the Southern studio yet again on the road. I'll be back in the studio next week for our usual bat time, our usual bat channel. As we go around the horn, let's see who's joining us. First, let's go out to a quiet, a sleepy, a tranquil hamlet known as St. Charles, where we are joined once again by the uncleest of Mikes, Mr. Uncle Mike TOSAW from St. Charles Wealth Management. Uncle Mike, welcome back to the show, sir.
Always happy to be here. I'm glad to know that St. Charles is not the dark and stormy shores anymore.
No, it's only when the Rock Lobster isn't here. Then someone has to take that spot. And last week it was you. So you drew the short straw. This week, you're back to the normal, happy, tranquil shores of St. Charles, sir. Does that make you happy? I guess it does.
Yes,
all right,
it does.
Let's keep on rolling. Let's go to the actual dark and stormy shores, because they're always dark. They're stormy. They're gloomy. They're just oppressive. You might say to yourself, who in God's name would live in such a place? But there is one. He is the Rock Lobster, Mr. Andrew GIOVINAZZI from OptionPit.com. Mr. G, welcome back to the show. How go things on the dark and stormy shores, sir?
It is dark, but not stormy. Getting ready for a 3-day weekend and just befuddled at this market. I have to say, it's just I don't even know what to say at this point with this. It is such a goofball central market. It's hard to figure it out. But anyway, that's what we're here for.
It's a good thing you don't know what to say because we have a whole hour of saying things about the market ahead of us, so it should be fun.
I will fill it up with gray noise.
But you know what? If you're not befuddled by this market, I don't think you're paying attention. Let's see. It's so befuddling, listeners. We added a third share. He is the FLOWMASTER himself, Mr. Henry Schwartz from CBOE. Mr. FLOWMASTER, welcome back to the show to you as well, sir.
Hi, Mark. Hi, everybody. I'm happy to be here, and I'm also excited that it's a synthetic Friday for the trading world.
Yes, very much a synthetic Friday. Truncated holiday week, listeners. So no vol views, no options oddities tomorrow. Instead, we're going to binge right now a little bit of the old trading block.
It's time to break down the latest topics, trades, and trends in the world of options. It's time for the trading block.
All right, everybody, welcome to the trading block, the portion of the show where we do just that. We break down what the heck is trading out there. And as the Rock Lobster alluded to, another head scratcher out there. We started off the day kind of mixed, then looked like maybe we were trending red, and then we were trending green, and now we're back to slightly mixed as the show kicks off. The S&P still up about 0.2%, hanging out right around that 4,100 level that it seems to just be sucked towards gravitationally these days. The Dow flirting with unched is actually slightly negative right now, but only by a couple of points, so pretty much unched on the day. And then the NASDAQ is up almost 0.5%, about 0.45% right now. So yet another weird head scratcher kind of a day. You know, the week kicked off with all that news coming out of the Saudis, listeners conspiring against us. Crazy news on the WWE front. We talked about that as well. One of the biggest acquisition/merger deals of the week. So a lot to kick us off there on the week, which is good because otherwise on the earnings front, it's been kind of slow. All of that rolling around, what we're seeing out there in the markets right now. VIX itself coming into the start of the show a little bit shy of the 19 handle, 1880, down about 0.2 of a point. VVIX at about an 84, so down about a point as well. VXX 4370 when we kicked off the show, down about 0.6 of a point. So not a heck of a lot of evolution here across the board, listeners. UVXY hanging out at a whopping 440, down about 0.1 of a point. That one can't reverse split fast enough, listeners. SVIX at a 17, up about 0.25. Nice of them to fill me on the other side of my fly today. So I got in, I got out. Nice little round trip here for SVIX. So if you're a little bit intimidated by these markets, listeners, just be a little bit diligent. You work your orders a little bit. You can get filled. It just requires some patience, and you got to babysit a little bit out there. So SVIX maybe a little bit more tradable on the options front than you initially assumed. UVIX at about a 15, down about 0.5 point. And good old Vol Q at about a 22.20 when we kicked off the show. That puts it literally unched from where it was this time a week ago. How often do we say that? NASDAQ Vol unched. Not often, but today we are saying that. Let's go around the horn now. Let's go back out. Let's go the opposite of the way we started. Let's go back out to the CBOE hot seat. Mr. FLOWMASTER, another crazy week, another topsy-turvy week. The Rock Lobster says he doesn't have the words. So I am turning to you, sir. Do you have the words? What is catching your eye out there in this crazy week in the market?
Well, I don't know if I'd say it's a crazy week. I think it's been an active week, and we kind of had VIX, come in a little bit. SPX is traded in a range, but I mean, I think we're basically like flat on the week. So it kind of continues, I think, what I was seeing last week, which is it's just, we're seeing two-way flow. We're seeing kind of pockets of bullish and pockets of bearish, and that's the greatest because it's not all one way, right? The sentiment, depending on what sector you're digging into or what products you're looking at, there's different kind of types of flow at work. And that, to me, that's kind of the best because it makes it possible for traders of all different styles to kind of put on the positions that they are comfortable with and manage them.
It is very much a trader's market, listeners. It is no longer the Ron Popeil set it and forget it market. It is very much be a little bit diligent, a little bit light on your toes out there, and you can do all right in this market. Since he did say he doesn't know what he wants to say today, we will go to him last. Instead, we will go now to the uncleist of Mikes, Mr. Uncle Mike TOSAW from St. Charles Wealth Management. Uncle Mike, sir, what's catching your eye out there in a bit of an interesting market this week, sir?
Definitely interesting this week, but it's before the holiday weekend, and so I don't really see a lot of more movement coming this week. The one thing that I have seen this week that I think is a little bit surprising this week is that we actually do have a little bit of movement in the treasuries. We've had a little bit of an uptick in the value of the 10-year. And so we have had some rush to quality, so to speak. So we have had that, which in some ways sometimes makes me feel kind of good knowing that our country's not going to go belly up and then all of a sudden our treasuries aren't going down, and we're not getting a 35% yield on the 10-year like a lot of countries whose currency is about to go belly up are. I know there's a lot of talk about the U.S. not being the world's reserve currency anymore, and that China's in talks with Russia. But at least according to the treasury prices, we're still good, and that always makes me feel good. So we do have that. We are creeping up slightly in the silver realm, so we are getting a little bit of movement there. In terms of the S&P 500, we made a run at the 4,200 level, but that was pretty much it. It was a run at it, but the run kind of stopped at the
TWIFO today, Uncle Mike, and I was thinking about you because we actually had silver on the show this week, making it into the show, a big banger after kind of starting off the week a bit in the doldrums, or in the year, I should say, in the doldrums. Silver coming alive, so you must be all sorts of enthusiastic about silver right now, sir. Just giddy.
Silver is going to come like a thief in the night one of these years. I've been telling my clients that for 10 years since the last time it came like a thief in the night.
Yes, the heady days of the 2-year silver collar. Will we ever be able to forget the bonanza of riches that delivered for the show, sir? Never. Impossible to forget. Let's keep on rolling out there to the lands of the dark and stormy. Nothing is shiny out there. That's why he's always so gloomy. Mr. Rock Lobster, have you finally found your voice, sir? And what is catching your eye in this kind of interesting, head-scratching, call it what you will type of week, sir?
Well, a couple of things caught my eye. One is the average realized vol. So I also look at, I remember talking with Russell about this. Why do I look at 90-day 90-day realized vol? It's just, to me, it is like a theoretical value for volatility for a quarter, right? So like what was the flavor of the last quarter? And right now, that 90-day number is the lowest it has been since 2021. So from a quarter to quarter view, or last 90 days, we are in the lowest vol environment we have had. Even throw the banking crisis in there, or whatever we had for that week that it was. So that's one thing. So like a much lower average realized vol. So does that mean the Fed's going to stop raising interest rates? No, I think it's more like the market is getting used to the fact that these are the interest rates that are going to be, as much that as everybody thinks the Fed's going to pivot or something. I don't think the Fed does anything until the government stops spending money. Again, that's totally conjecture on my part. But since the deficit is running like insanely out of control, and it has for years, I believe the Fed is in taking the punch bowl away mode, and they're not going to give it up. And door number two is they just basically, I don't know, Henry. I know Henry was more of a Wall Street like on the desk guy, but it's almost like they threw $600 billion in QE back at the market again, and everybody went to the discount window and swapped bonds for cash just to hang out. And it's like everything they've done over the last year or so, they gave it all back in a week on the swap. And I don't know about you guys, but every time the Fed does a QE thing, stocks don't go down anymore. And you look at the action this week, and that's kind of what it is. And you see VIX coming in, finally taking the weekend out, or the 3-day weekend out. So you're going to see vol coming in a little bit. But like, where do we go? And here's another thing. CPI, speaking of TOSAW saying it's so nice to not have the Fed in anything. We have a CPI and an FOMC meeting result on Wednesday, the 12th. And I know because Vic's like,
oh, you just messed up my day, Andrew. Come on.
He was all excited about the Saudis and the Russians, and now you just burst his bubble.
And I crushed. But what I was trying to help TOSAW saying, the bid for options around that day is probably the lowest I have seen in the last 6 to 8 months. Like the April 12th straddle is $6, $6.50. Now, granted, it's still a Fed day, but that is the lowest number I've seen in 6 to 8 months. So the market cares about it much less than they used to. Let's just put it that way. A lot less than they used to. So
now that makes me feel better. Thank you.
Yeah. So like, and here's the thing. They're gonna do whatever they said. Like last time they said they're gonna raise 25 more points. That's what they're gonna do. And they're gonna keep doing it. And everybody's just waiting for something to go, belly up. Mark and I looked at like Lincoln Financial Group. I think I had to take I didn't even, I remember this being kind of a sleepy annuity company or something like that, and took a enormous write down in November on the value of their bond portfolio, which is not yielding anything. So, I mean, they took a big write down. The stock went from a $70 stock, it's $20, and they're buying more puts on it now. So, of course, owning government paper is better than owning, I guess, the stuff in the great financial crisis. That's normally what we think. But at some point, I think one branch of the government has to start understanding like what the other branch of the government's doing. And I know the Fed is kind of their own quasi agency, but clearly, like White House and Congress, nobody's getting the memo there from the Fed. I don't really remember hearing Powell just go up and say, "Hey, knuckleheads, stop spending so much money for a while. Let's see if it works." Haven't heard that yet from Powell. It would be nice if he actually said that. So, do we 4,100 is what our new magnet? Do we move away from that? I think we can move away from that a little bit, but the reality is it's hard for like the Qs to carry any more of the water. Like Nvidia, Apple, Microsoft, they're all trading at ridiculous multiples. Doesn't mean they can't go higher. We all remember what it was like in 2000, and even in 2021 for that matter. But so where's the catalyst? So I figure, okay, catalyst would be like banking system, maybe better, but none of those stocks have really recovered a bunch. I mean, Charles Schwab still in the ash can. So it's definitely like, I feel like the QE facility helped, but it hasn't changed the fundamental picture of rates are going up, government's still spending too much money, and like, how is this all going to work out in the future? But it is making higher volatility in the back, all the back month future, all the back month SPX, all those forward vols, those futures like 24%. That's pretty expensive. But not crazy over, when VIX is 12, Well, that back month SPX could be 20, right? Kind of a more closer to the historical average. So market is still pricing some funk, but not near as much as you would think. And I think the answer is that the Fed's keeping the banks propped up until we get through this rate rising cycle, whenever it's going to end. And I think it's making equities kind of just, it's lackluster. They're not really selling off hard, and there's very little catalyst for them to go up. So I just think we're going to see lower vol and like kind of more orbiting, bouncy markets. There you go.
Let's see how much excitement we can find out there in the markets today. Let's start in the major indexes. Let's start in VIX land. VIX coming into this point of the show, listeners, hanging out, looking pretty respectable. 436,000 contracts on the tape. The ADV right now, nearly 900,000, 890,000, ticking up a little bit again since our Monday show. So we are threatening 900,000 contracts a day in VIX. It has been quite some time since we've seen an ADV like that out in VIX land. So things are certainly looking heady out there these days, listeners. SPY, you know the deal with SPY. A day that ends in Y. SPY is going to put up numbers. That is the case again today. 4.7 million. The ADV right around 9.5 million out there right now. The S, 1.5 million. Again, I've said it before. It's like a broken record now. Just a couple of months ago, I would have said, man, 1.5 million contracts in SPY. That's a banger day. Now we expect that. Now the ADV is nearly 3 million, 2.9 million. So we're pretty much halfway there right now. So the frame of reference has changed completely for all things SPX going forward. Is where it's trading right now, up about $4.50 or about 1.61% today. Again, good for 272,000 contracts on the tape. All right, let's go out to number 8. It's AMD, listeners. AMD, 291,000 contracts on the tape, listeners. All right, AMD, listeners, $92.50. Pretty much unched on the day after bouncing around between 90.60 and 92.76, hanging out at around 92.60 right now. So near the upper end of that range. Again, good for 291,000 contracts. So the chip zone coming early today. Then we go for number 7. We go back to China, listeners. By China, you know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about Baba. Good for 306,000 contracts. Alibaba, 102.16 right now, up about 360 or 3.6% today as well. So apparently today is another day where all is right in China. Then to number 6, listeners, we go to the other side of the Google equation. Good old Google, a.k.a. Alphabet Class A. 340,000 contracts out there. Alphabet Class A trading 107 and about a third, up about 290 today. So we got double Google in the top 10 today. Haven't seen that in quite some time. It just shows you the majesty, the magic, the power of AI that can drive just about everything out there these days. Listeners, number 5, it is the Amazonians, listeners. Amazonians, number 5, 429,000 contracts. Amazon back up over the par strike, 101.64, and now up about $0.50 or about 0.5% on the day right now. So Amazon looking a little bit more robust out there today. And then number 4, the other half of the chip zone coming a little bit later than normal. Chip zone, 524,000 contracts for our old friend NVIDIA, listeners. That's a pretty robust day for NVIDIA. NVIDIA up about a third of a point right now, trading right around 269.20. They've had an interesting range today, over 6-handle range, 264.25 on the downside, 270.61 on the upside, listeners. So pretty decent range, kind of hanging out towards the higher end. But an intriguing day. That's hence why so much paper is on the tape out there, listeners. Then to number 3, we go out to Apple, listeners. Yes, the fruit company coming in at number 3 today. 567,000 contracts on the tape. Right now, Apple 164.40. My goodness, they have rallied this thing from the lows not too long ago. At this point, listeners, we're not too far away from the 52-week high of 176.15. So is all right with the world again? Well, Apple looking green, so the market is certainly happy out there today. Then we go to number 2. Haven't seen this one so high on the list in a while. This is AMC. There has been some interesting rumors out there, them and Amazon potentially getting together. AMC, 888,000 contracts on the tape right now, listeners. Trading close to $5, $4.94, up nearly about 90 cents on the day. So a nice pop for AMC out there. So yeah, all sorts of headlines going on out there with AMC today, but it's driving paper. Again, nearly 1 million contracts in AMC. But the big dog remains, once again, listeners, it is Tesla. 1.82 million contracts on the tape for Tesla. Tesla right now, listeners, 185.75, up about 20 cents net right now on the day. So intriguing stuff. And again, a far distance from its 52-week low. Not too long ago that it set right around 101. So Tesla on the rampage. I wish I could say earnings season was on the rampage, but not quite in that zone yet, listeners. We got to wait for earnings season proper to kick off again. We got a little bit of time left, unless you're really excited about Levi's after the bell today and WD-40, in which case, hey, today is your oyster. But outside of those, not a heck of a lot of names popping. Oh, also Constellation Brands. There we go, listeners. All sorts of exciting stuff on the tape. So you could check the website, theoptionsinsider.com. Click on the Options News and Articles tab. Haven't had a ton of updates on the earnings move results paper for a little bit because the season is pretty much winding down. But we're waiting for the new season to spin up, in which case we'll have a lot of new reports for you. Check them out at the site as we keep on rolling and head right on into the Odd Block.
It's time to break down the most interesting, unusual, and downright questionable options activity that's been identified by theoptionsinsider.com. It's time for the Odd Block.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Odd Block portion of the show where we break down what the heck is lighting up our tapes out there today. Before we go on to our new paper, Mr. FLOWMASTER, did you keep an eye on your Carvana calls from last week? We actually talked about them on Oddities and then again on the Odd Block on Monday. But it looks like, Mr. FLOWMASTER, they were loading up, as you recall, on very near dated paper. They were swinging for the fences, and the stock exploded. They got the move they wanted, and it doesn't seem like they're really unwound it. Is that your takeaway as well, sir?
Well, I remember that one because I traded it. I bought a little call. I bought a little bit of stock that morning, and I sold a few of those calls for I think they were 20 or 30 cents. And so kind of, knowingly putting on the synthetic put, but the stock finished around 960, I want to say, or 930, whatever it is. I got my stock was called away, so I was perfectly happy. I made about 40 cents net, and then the stock got whacked the next a couple days later. So that was an interesting one. There was no news, so it's possible they just got lucky. It's I don't know. It's the next one that I put on the list to discuss was something in Micron for today, which is kind of along the same vein in terms of a very short-term call buyer and, basically managing to catch a pretty serious lift in the stock.
All right, let's get to that then. Let's get out to our old friend Micron. I haven't talked about Micron in forever. That's why it's nice having the FLOWMASTER on. He brings up some of these old names that haven't reared their ugly head on the show in a while. Micron trading right now, 58.87, listeners. Let's see. Today, up about $2. On the year, a bit of a different story. On the year, it's kind of a bit of a rough year, off nearly 15 handles for Micron, or about 20-odd% on the year, listeners. A year ago, it was trading right around $74. It seems like it topped out at 76.25. That was in the March-April timeframe of last year. Then they came for it shortly thereafter. It looks like it held out actually. Then in June, it started selling off to about 57, and it's been kind of bouncing around in this range for most of the year. It looks like it hit the low for the year of actually broke the 50 handle very briefly in September. 48.43 was the low for the year. Threatened it again in December before rallying again to start the year. And most of the year, though, it has been hanging out in this mid 50s to low 60s range, where we're hanging out again right now. All that a long way around to saying, Mr. Flowmaster, sounds like you got another person who wants to dive into that 0-day call party, sir. What did you find today?
Well, yeah, so right around 9:40, a couple minutes after that, the expiring today 58 calls started getting lifted, and we're talking about sweep after sweep after sweep from 21 cents up to 35 cents. Stock was under $58, and it was another one of these kind of situations where I was like, well, I don't know if this person knows anything, but I'll see if I can scalp a dime or a quarter in the stock. And I didn't touch the options, but I made about 90 cents on some stock. And those calls got as high as $1. They're kind of coming back a little bit now that we're, a couple hours from expiration. But similar to the Carvana, though, when I go in and I look at these CBOE open close data, which is data that we sell that is available in Trade Alert, and you can see the customers buying and the customers selling for any option in 10-minute intervals. And so you can kind of see the net, right? And so if it was one buyer just buying, then the number will jump on the customer buy side, and there won't be anything on the customer sell side. In this case, it was pretty well paired off. So it actually was kind of a lot of two-way action. I mean, even in that first 10 minutes, we had about on the CBOE exchanges. So that's the CBOE EDGX, BZX, and C2. Exchanges about 12,000 traded, and it was almost like half and half customers buyers and customers selling. So that was what Carvana looked like as well. Which on that, when we talked last week, I was like, we do kind of see this sometimes. People overbuy, think that they'll get a little bit of a goose in the market because people start to think there's something going on, and that kind of gives them a chance to scale out of the overage and keep some core position that they originally wanted. And there's obviously some risk to doing that. And I don't know, I'm not even sure if it's 100% legal, but we see it. And this almost looks similar, but man, the stock's up, for the stock to run almost $2 from when they got into the calls, that's a pretty solid move. The overall market took a pretty solid leg up around noon today. So that helped.
Look at you, Mr. Flowmaster, scalping away on your odd block. Not even touching the options, just slinging the stock. We're going old school. I like that one. Yeah, a total of nearly 42,000 of these 58s have traded today. So this is, I think, to put it mildly, extremely aggressive paper out here. So yeah, the 0-day love, Henry, it's all spilling over into equities. It's all coming. It's all coming, sir. By the end of the year, it'll be all 0-day in equities too. Mr. Rock Lobster, did you notice this explosion of 0-day paper here or 1-day paper in Micron? And what are your thoughts, sir?
Oh, a 1-day explosion. I'm going to say one thing, though. I'm going to give some props here. So I've been on this show for 10 years. No, 11 years, maybe 12 years. And Henry pops on in a couple weeks doing like, hey, Andrew, I'm gonna put you on the list for my special secret trades of the day. Only on for a week or two. Do I get a pro box from the Option Insider after 12 years? No pro box, but Henry, boom, he just puts me on the list like as Bob's your uncle. I'm just saying
umbrage,
to the listeners. Just so you know, go sign up for Trade Alert. They're going to take care of you over there. Just saying. Just saying.
Your umbrage over that pro crate is fascinating. See, listeners, that shows how fun it is over there. You should sign up for the pro if for no other reason than just to tweak Andrew. It makes him so angry.
I actually did not see the Micron Technology paper, but I would say the less the less expensive chip stocks like MU, Qualcomm, multiple wise, like Intel, even Intel has jumped like $5-6 in the last few weeks. So I have seen that as a trend, although Micron did not come across my radar as such. And I'm actually doing a piece on Carvana for our pit report at Option Pit, and just looking on the how squeezy that stock is right now still. So I'm doing a little analysis of the squeeze potential there, because like you said, the Fed pumps in a bunch of money and all of a sudden there's a couple extra bucks floating around, and all these beat down heavily shorted stocks have a way of popping. So Carvana could fit that bill at some point. So I'm doing that research as we speak, but I have not seen MU in particular, but I have noticed a much larger interest in all what I would call like AMD and Nvidia obviously are the ultra growth, or the leaders in the sector that all the AI money is going to. And it does appear now some money is going to kind of these old school chip makers. But that's my big observation there. After I got over my umbrage session, I've recovered.
All right, let's keep it rolling here. We fire up the old Eye of Sauron. Sounds like the FLOWMASTER is using the same Eye of Sauron. Of course, this paper next one we're going to talk about is so big, listeners. I think even the one-eyed eye of the Cyclops could find this one. We're going out to Cleveland Cliffs, listeners. It's been a while since we talked about this one. Ticker symbol CLF, up about 45 cents today, trading right around 1740. On the year, a little bit of a different story, listeners. On the year, it's off, a whopping 44%, or 13 3/4 on the year. A year ago, listeners, was trading right around $31, $32. He got as high as about 32 3/4. That was last April of last year. And then since then, they pretty much came for it. They beat it up all the way down to $11.82, listeners. It's like it hit that low back in the October-November timeframe of last year. So they've been trying to rally it ever since then. It got up as high as about $22 again, 21.50 or so back. Yeah, pretty close to $22, right around the end of February, beginning of March of this year. And then they have taken it back down to about 17 1/3, where it's hanging out right now. And yeah, our Eye of Sauron spotted some weird paper. First off, we noticed the first thing came across our radar was 16,018 of the June 20 calls going up for 64 cents. Looks like near the offer there, that was about a 52, almost 53 ball, when the stock was a little bit lower, $16.93. That seemed interesting in and of itself. But then we sent our Eye of Sauron back to look some more, and it found just a tsunami, a tidal wave of the May 20s going up around the same time. It went up in chunks. A total of about 65,000 of these May 20s had traded so far by the time the show kicked off. And Mr. FLOWMASTER, I know you noticed these as well. It seemed like a bit of the old opposite of the house money roll, maybe a losing money roll, because, again, 65,000 the May 20s going up seems like paper dumping those, but still coming back to play, in June for much smaller size out there. That's usually a sign that maybe they didn't do that well. I mean, they could be pocketing some of their money as well. But is that your takeaway as well? What'd you notice out there in everyone's favorite Cleveland Cliffs today, sir?
Yeah, that does look to me like it's a closer in May, but they may be selling extra, because I see them buying them in the middle of March, like March 15th, almost like in the 95-cent range. And then I think they actually might have bought more at the end of March. So getting up the position up to kind of 25,000 contracts or so. Now, I think they're dumping them today, and maybe to help pay for the June position, they're overselling, turning a long call that did not work into a long calendar. That would be my guess, which I guess gives you a similar, they'll still make some money if the stock happens to kind of head back up towards 20. But yeah, it looks a little sloppy. It looks a little bit like they took a hit and decided to move some things around.
Yeah, whenever we see smaller size like that on the second leg, it's usually one of our hallmarks that, yeah, maybe things didn't go exactly right in the first leg of the trade, and either they got run over and they're just getting the heck out of Dodge, and they have less money left to buy more for the next leg, or like you're saying, maybe they're legging into something now because things didn't go their way, I should say, in the early rounds of the trade. Mr. Rock Lobster, is that your takeaway as well? You think this is a bit of a maybe a misguided, not house money roll, house losing roll, maybe? What's your take on this Cleveland Cliffs size paper, sir?
Yeah, well, we have seen, like, when the nose is bloody, you tend to they kind of retrench a little bit. They
get a little skittish.
That is a common theme we have here on the A block. However, I will use the option block litmus test, the odd block litmus test for success. Day one, trade up money. So maybe they're, getting back on the winning train because I see the calls bid 74 cents right now. So looks like they're up about a dime, which on 25,000 contracts, hey, that's not too bad. That's not too bad. So that'll give their Easter holiday weekend a good start. But that's appears, and I am quite surprised at how the commodity stocks have been just annihilated. They were the trade du jour last year, and they are clearly not the trade du jour this year because that's just Nvidia, AMD, and Microsoft. Those are the trade du jour this year. Just 3 stocks. Throw in Google, I guess, is moved up a little bit. Throw in Apple, maybe. We're back to the same 5 stocks again. Tesla a little bit because that's doubled too. So you would think that these commodities would pop at some point, which I do think they will. But yeah, I think this is a bit of a, they took it on the chin and they're just but they want to hold on and buy themselves a little more time to be right. So not the first time we've seen this one.
Always pays to have more time to be right at the end of the day. Since you're talking about commodities, maybe not being the go-to trade, it's all AI this year. Well, maybe Endeavor Silver Corp, our last one here, will change your mind. Ticker symbol EXK. We talked about a lot of precious metals names on the show recently. I don't think most of them have been gold names. I don't think we've talked about many silver names, let alone Endeavor Silver Corp. Trading right now, $4.17, up about 17 cents on the day, nearly 4%. On the year, you pretty much know the deal. These names tend to track the performance of their underlying commodity. Listeners, last year, this one popped to a high of about 5 3/4. That came back in late April of last year, and then they kind of came for it right away. By May, it was trading $3 again, and then it looks like in September it got down to $2.47. That was its low for the year. It obviously has rallied now back up to about $4.16. And what do we find out there? Like I said, we've been talking about a lot of paper and these weird IM Gold, all these weird gold names out there. It's like we're getting something a little bit reminiscent of that in EXK today. In particular, going out a little bit longer term, though, going out to January. And they're the Jan 7.5s, going up 10,000 times for 28 cents on splits, actually through the offer. So obviously they had to sweep aggressively to get all this 10,000 lot done. That is a 64 vol. EXK at the time was $4.09. Let's see. Obviously, they're going to be earnings between now and Jan expiration. The earnings next time are going to be on May 10th. So maybe we'll know in about a month and change how these calls are looking. Before I go out to the FlowMaster and others, it is silver. So let's bring back on Uncle Mike. Mr. Uncle Mike, sir. Is this you? Did you go out and buy 10,000 Jan 7.5s in EXK today?
No, it was not me. I wish it, and sometimes I wish it was, but one of these days I'm going to get on the odd block for a move I make.
Do you play in any of these precious metals adjacent names, or are you kind of all GLD and SLB?
I'm a purist. I just stick to the one thing. The concept behind that is that if you could get better performance on a gold or silver based stock if the companies run well, but if the company's not run well, then you get worse. So I like to. I'm a simple kind of guy. I like to keep things simple.
Hard to argue with that at the end of the day. Mr. Flowmaster, same question for you, sir. Did you notice these EXK calls? And it seems like precious metal upside, all the rage these days, at least on the options front, sir. What do you think?
I didn't see the EXK. I mentioned last week I'm along this AU, this Anglo Gold, which I think this thing's up like $9 in 2 months and to $26. So I don't know why I'm long, and I think it dates back to a couple of years ago. But I'm not good at dumping my losers.
I don't know why I'm long.
But don't
like a true trader. How is this still on my book?
Well, I have this. When did I get long this?
But Andrew, we can get you on the odd block because we'll pick some name where the average daily volume is like 5 contracts, and then you can trade a 25 lot, and we'll go out on it. We'll be like volume 5x normal in this, and you can say, oh, that's me.
Yep, there we go. And I can feel large. I appreciate that, Henry. Say, well, look at that. Twice in one show, helping me out. Twice in one show. All I'm saying.
I mean, if you ever want to swing around 1,000 lots, Nanos is the place to go for that.
Henry, plug in all of his products. I like that though. I don't know why I'm long this, but I have. I think we've all said that at once or twice. Wait a minute, what is this? When did I get this? Good stuff.
Every guy with gold in his portfolio. I don't know why I'm long this. I just know I'm supposed to have some in case everything falls apart. I think that's what something I'm assuming for the Flowmaster, but I know that's why I have all the junky gold stocks I have in mind. So.
You do love yourself some junky gold names, and we love ourselves some listener feedback. Let's get to it. A little bit of the old mail block.
It's time to take your seat on the All-Star panel as we read your emails, tweets, Facebook messages, website comments, and much more. It's time for the mail block.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Mail Block, the portion of the show where we break down what you folks have on the brain. You can get at us no shortage of ways, listeners. If you're listening live in the live stream, at Options on most major social media platforms. If you're in the Pro, you can also use the old members hotline to get your question bumped to the top of the list. You can also play along in our questions of the week, just like many of you have done over the last couple of the weeks. Last week, we asked you folks, a couple weeks ago, we asked you what's your favorite option strategy to leg into stock positions at lower prices, and it came out with the old short put. I kind of thought this would run away with it, but it was actually a little bit closer than I thought. Short put, 47.4%, right on its heels. The ratio 1/2 put spread, long 1, short 2, 39.5%. So getting more love for that. I got to say, I don't hate that one. That's kind of an intriguing one as well. I utilize it myself every now and then. And then other getting 13.2%, I should say. This past week, we asked you out there recently, along those same lines, we were debating recently on Options Boot Camp. We had Mr. Overby and Mr. Dan there. We were talking about butterflies, in particular broken wing skip strike flies, listeners. And we asked you, quite simply, are you more of a traditional fly trader, or do you prefer the old broken wing or skip strike, whatever you want to call them out there? Or are you more situational? And our audience kind of split on this one as well. Exactly 37.5% of you choosing depends on the situation, or your traditional old school flies. You like that symmetrical fly setup. That kind of surprised me. I kind of thought maybe the skip strike broken wing would take it, or the situational would take it, but actually a tie. So intriguing stuff. Just showing once again, our audience never fails to surprise me out there. 25% of you saying you like a good broken wing or skip strike fly. And then we also asked you, Uncle Mike covered your ears. We had a fun flash poll recently on our Crypto Rundown show. We asked you quite simply, is crypto, particularly Bitcoin and Ether, the new flight to quality asset, given how it performed to all those market shocks recently? It was rallying. Everything else was selling off. And you folks took that pretty seriously, even though it was only a half-joking poll. And it came in down to the wire, 53.3% finally choosing no, 46.7% choosing yes.
Thank God.
I knew you were holding your breath, waiting for the results of that on there. Mr. Uncle Mike. But you maybe want to hold your breath a little bit more, because we have another question along those lines. This one comes from CJ Gan, or maybe Gan with 2 N's. He or she wants to know, is BITO the best choice for U.S. options traders looking to trade crypto? And any issues that I should be aware of before I dive in? And short answer is, yeah, it's a really, particularly, obviously you're writing to us, so I'm assuming you're talking through the lens of the options there, CJ. And from that perspective, yeah, for most of our listeners who are U.S. based. They primarily trade in their securities accounts. BITO is a hard one to beat. It's deep, it's liquid. We hadn't ran these numbers recently. I haven't updated them today, but this ADV is still looking around these levels, somewhere north of 90,000 contracts. So it's a very active name. You'd be hard pressed to find something that is this deep and this liquid that also has options. It's really kind of a game of one out there, and it's BITO. Mr. Flowmaster, have you dipped your toe in the BITO out there? And what are your thoughts here for CJ? Is that your favorite way for U.S. options traders looking to trade crypto? He wants to know.
Yeah, I remember the week that they listed the BITO, and then a couple weeks later, XBTF, I think, was the symbol that came out, right? The Van Eck version. And BITO, because it had a head start, that's where all the volume is. And you're exactly right. The ADV is 91,000 contracts. That was healthy open interest, and that seems to be kind of the product of choice. There are, I've played around with some of the you can trade options on some of the Bitcoin mining companies. Obviously, a lot more risk to that because you get zero diversification, picking a stock. But some of the symbols, Hive is one of them. I know that I've been in and out of. There's also not for options trading though, but that Grayscale Bitcoin Trust, which is it's a I don't even know if it's an ETF. It's an exchange traded product. There are not options on it. It trades pink sheets, I think, but it trades a lot. And that was the one that was in the headlines about 6 months ago because there was a lot of concern about the custody, the Grayscale itself when you had the big crypto when FTX was imploding, and so there was big discount for that. But there was a lot of uncertainty in terms of whether or not you could be sure that it actually had the bitcoins that it said it had. But anyway, but yes, you're right. BITO is kind of the one most liquid product. And I do know traders that play around with options on BITO. They're also in and out of the cryptocurrency themselves, and kind of play things from multiple directions.
Yeah, the Grayscale is an interesting one. Obviously not optionable, you're right. And that huge discount just scares the hell out of me, right? Because you're looking at that, you're like, hey, where's this discount going to go? It's obviously going to go right back up to par again, or is going to go all the way down to zero. Something crazy is going to happen. But there are proponents of the Grayscale. I know Mr. Bill, our guest on crypto, quite a bit. He likes the Grayscale product, even though I'm trying to lure him into BITO. But obviously no options. If you want the options, and you're right. You mentioned those other ETFs that launched after BITO, Henry, and it was funny. It was like BITO just took all the oxygen in the room. Nobody. I think there were Valkyrie and some other ones that came out after that, and nobody cared. Just there's no paper on them. There's no volume. It's all BITO. BITO. I should get a check from these guys as we keep on rolling right on into Around the Block.
It's time to tell you what we'll be watching on our trading screens until the next episode. It's time for Around the Block.
All right, everybody, welcome to Around the Block, the portion of the show where we tell you what we're keeping an eye on our trading screens until our next episode on Monday. Let's start with the Uncle List of Mikes. Mr. Uncle Mike, we got a nice holiday weekend coming up here, and so everyone gets to take a nice little break from their screens. So a little bit of a longer period between now and Monday's show when folks can access their markets again. So what are you keeping an eye on until Monday shows?
I mean, unless we have a major surprise happen of some sort, I don't really see a lot of movement happening till next week. So I think the rest of the day today, I really don't see any reason for a gap up or gap down over the weekend. But typically when there's no reason, a reason appears. So you never know. Just waiting and seeing on the Fed or possibly even the Saudis if we're lucky, maybe. I don't know.
Oh, are you getting excited again? You talking Saudis again? You getting excited?
That must be it. But for now, we'll see how strong the 4100 magnet is. The GIOVINAZZI 4100.
The GIOVINAZZI 4100. All right. Well, since you have been invoked, Mr. Rock Lobster, what are you keeping an eye on until Monday's show? Remember, no vol views tomorrow.
I know. I actually will be spring skiing on Monday.
You still have snow up there? Wow.
Yeah, there is still snow, but it'll be a spring skiing kind of slushy day. But what the heck, my kid's back from college, so I'm gonna do the dad thing, which will be nice. As far as watching, I'm not gonna say it because TOSAW will get upset. But I don't think a whole lot happens next week unless there's another weekend surprise. But you have to look at the vol action today, and they're kind of hitting the vol all the way into the close. So I'm guessing, I'm going out on a limb and saying they're not expecting a lot to happen this weekend. So I just think we have to get past Wednesday and get a little clear sailing. So yeah, I got an SPX fly on around 4100 for Monday. So that would actually tell you because it's gonna trade where it's gonna trade, and it'll settle where it's gonna settle. So it is the perfect skiing position. Maybe I'll pay for my ski trip.
4100 even. You watch this time next week. Mr. Rock Lobster will be a happy camper. Mr. FLOWMASTER, the last word is yours, sir. What are you keeping an eye on until your next appearance next Thursday, sir?
Well, we do have earnings in a couple weeks here, so things will start to get exciting. But watching every weekend that goes by that we don't have some sort of banking crisis is a step towards stability, and that's it feels like that's what we're seeing. I think that there's some interesting stuff in some of those beaten down names. I was looking at the KRE regional banking ETF. There's a deal name. I think the TD is buying FHN, but the stock's trading way below the deal price, so people are thinking either they're going to abandon it or maybe renegotiate the price. So I'm kind of poking around at a few ideas in there. And then, I'm getting ready for OIC, which is in later this month. God, pretty soon. So I'm refreshing all my industry information and just basically running stats on record volume, which now it looks like we're tracking about 11.3 billion contracts. And then this phenomena of zero-day trading, the zero-day SPX, but even today, the zero-day Micron. So it really is a sea change in the way that the options, that people are using options. And, most of the people I talk to think, but what we're seeing is kind of a new user base, a new use case, people kind of trading short-term strategies independently from more traditional, longer-dated stuff. So there's a lot of exciting stuff, and you know how to find us. Just go to CBOE.com and look for Trade Alert. You can always get us.
There you go. And I guess I'm going to see you in person again in a couple of weeks. I'll be down in OIC. So a couple of meetings in person of the FLOWMASTER in the span of a month. Can the world handle it?
Nashville.
I guess we will find out. I've never been to Nashville. That should be fun there as well. And Mr. Rock Lobster, when you're not busy spring skiing, if folks want to check out what you got cooking, where should they go? What should they do?
Yeah, go to optionbit.com or Money Map Press for my wares. our educational products. Look for a little bit of a revamp of Option Pit 2 as we try to improve our content for our users so they have more fun, learn more stuff. So yeah, check those out, 888-TRADE-01. And even though I don't get that pro crate from Mark, you can get 10% off at Option Pit if you just say you listen to this show. 888-TRADE-01. Talk to our customer care team, Ted or Andrew will help you out.
There you go. Check him out, optionpit.com. And last but not least, he's got a content palooza. So he's not on this show, listeners. He's out there holding court on Row and all sorts of fun stuff. Mr. Uncle Mike, sir, where should they go to find all that content goodness?
Best spot is to come follow me on Twitter at Mike TOSAW, TOSAW. I try and tweet out new content as it comes. And you can also visit my website, stcharleswealth.com, if you're looking for a financial advisor who understands the option product.
All right, that is going to do it for us here on the Old OB today. Got TWIFO coming up a little bit later. If you're listening on demand, that'll be hitting the network after this show. Listeners, remember, no shows tomorrow, no vol views, no options oddities for your pro folks. But we are back again on Monday, another episode of the Option Block. Stay safe out there, everybody.
The Option Block is brought to you by CBOE. When it comes to trading volatility, trust CBOE, the creator of the VIX Index, for in-depth and relevant information. CBOE's tools and services gives you up-to-date trade insights, analysis, and positions of VIX options and futures. No matter what kind of trader you are, there's plenty of useful information to take the guesswork out of creating your portfolio strategy and to help you make more educated moves in the market. Visit www.cboe.com/VIX today to learn more. You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com.